Let's face it, what is happening in the media is both obvious and alarming. An article appears claiming that Prince William made a surprise appearance on Dancing with the Stars to interact with Robert Irwin, and yet the image that accompanies the story is of Meghan Sussex. At first glance, one might think it's an innocent error, a simple mix-up, but anyone paying attention knows this is part of a larger pattern. The media, particularly in Australia and the UK, have become obsessed with Meghan Sussex, to the point where her image is often used to illustrate stories that have nothing to do with her. What we are seeing here is more than just clickbait. It is a deliberate strategy that raises serious questions about whose agenda is being served. Are the media using Meghan Sussex to advertise for William? Is William's team aware of this, and perhaps even benefiting from it? Or is it an unconscious pattern that simply perpetuates itself because Meghan Sussex's image guarantees engagement? This is not the first time Meghan Sussex has been put front and centre in a story she is not a part of. The pattern is clear. If a story involves William, or any other royal for that matter, and Meghan Sussex's image is available, that image will be used. The media knows it captures attention. Editors and picture desks are aware that Meghan Sussex's face draws clicks, engagement, and conversation, and they use that knowledge to their advantage. Meanwhile, William, despite being the subject of the story, is sidelined in visuals and sometimes even in narrative. His own actions, surprises or appearances are overshadowed by the decision to place Meghan Sussex's photo at the forefront. It sends a subtle yet powerful message that Meghan Sussex is more interesting, more clickable, more marketable than the heir to the British throne. Meghan Sussex's presence in the media has always been distinct from that of other royals. As a biracial American woman who entered the British royal family, she represented something new, something that deviated from the predictable narratives of the monarchy. The media recognized that novelty immediately and capitalized on it. From the moment Meghan Sussex stepped into the public eye, her visibility was amplified, sometimes to her benefit, and other times to her detriment. The coverage of Meghan Sussex was often sensationalized, racialized, and gendered, but it consistently ensured she remained the center of attention. She became the most clickable royal, the figure whose face guaranteed readership, whether the story was positive, negative, or entirely unrelated to her. When Meghan Sussex's image is used in stories about William, the implications go beyond simple inaccuracy. It is an explicit acknowledgement that her presence is more valuable than the story's subject. This is not a trivial issue. It affects how the public perceives both Meghan Sussex and William. By placing her image in a William story, the media manipulates attention, drawing readers in through a familiar and highly engaging face while simultaneously depriving William of visual and narrative ownership of his own story. This tactic, while profitable for media outlets, has consequences for public understanding, for William's individual narrative, and for Meghan Sussex's autonomy over her own image. The harm of this strategy is multi-layered. First, it misleads readers. When a headline announces William's surprise appearance on a popular television show, but the leading image is of Meghan Sussex, readers are invited into a cognitive dissonance. They click expecting one story, and what they get is something visually and contextually different. This undermines trust between the publication and the audience. Second, it diminishes William's agency. He is the subject, yet his image is replaced by someone else's. This subtly communicates that his story alone may not be sufficient to engage the audience, and that he relies on Meghan Sussex's visual pull to gain traction. Third, it further decontextualizes Meghan Sussex. Using her image as a placeholder for unrelated stories reduces her to a commodity, a tool to boost engagement, rather than respecting her as a full and independent subject with her own agency. In this sense, both William and Meghan Sussex are manipulated. William becomes dependent on her visibility, and Meghan Sussex becomes a visual instrument for others' narratives. The more one observes this pattern, the more questions arise. Why, in 2025, does an article about Prince William's television appearance require Meghan Sussex's face to attract attention? Are the media consciously prioritizing her image over relevance, Or is this a lazy default driven by engagement metrics? If William's communications team sees this happening and does nothing, are they tacitly endorsing it? Could William himself be benefiting from this pattern, even unconsciously, while the media profits from the heightened attention Meghan Sussex generates? These are uncomfortable questions, but they demand attention because they reflect a deeper entanglement between media strategy, celebrity culture, and the monarchy's public image. The media has long been accused of exploiting Meghan Sussex's presence to drive narratives, positive or negative, about the royal family. When her image is borrowed to illustrate stories that are not hers, it amplifies her brand in a way that may or may not align with her own interests. Every time a publication uses Meghan Sussex's photo for a story about William, Meghan Sussex becomes a tool rather than a protagonist. At the same time, William may be benefiting from her visibility without publicly acknowledging it. This creates a strange dynamic where one royal's story relies visually on another's image to gain attention, blurring the lines between agency, identity, and media manipulation. William, as the heir apparent, would normally be able to carry his own stories. His surprise appearance on a television show is newsworthy in its own right. Yet the decision to use Meghan Sussex's photo signals something: that the editors believe Meghan Sussex's presence is more marketable, more clickable, and more compelling than William himself. This is not just a question of media laziness. It is a reflection of a system that evaluates worth based on visibility and engagement rather than relevance. Meghan Sussex's image becomes a currency, and her face becomes a commodity leveraged to sell someone else's narrative. The consequences of this are significant for public perception. When readers see Meghan Sussex's image on a story about William, their attention is diverted, consciously or subconsciously, to her. This shapes the way the story is consumed and remembered. William's surprise appearance becomes secondary. Meghan Sussex's face dominates the narrative space. Over time, this pattern reinforces the idea that William requires Meghan Sussex's visibility to make headlines. It subtly diminishes his autonomy in public storytelling while simultaneously decontextualizing Meghan Sussex. She is no longer just a subject of coverage, but a tool to boost someone else's story. This situation also raises ethical questions for journalists and media outlets. Choosing an image is not a neutral act. It communicates power, focus, and relevance. When a story about William is accompanied by Meghan Sussex's image, it communicates that relevance can be sacrificed for clicks. It commodifies individuals, reducing them to their marketable qualities rather than their actual actions or significance. The public deserves better. Accuracy, relevance, and integrity should be the priorities, not engagement metrics. We must also consider the broader cultural implications. Royals are not just public figures, they are symbols. The way media frames their stories shapes how society interprets and values their roles. When Meghan Sussex's image is used to sell William's story, the symbolism shifts. Meghan Sussex becomes the visual anchor, the point of engagement, and William becomes secondary. Over time, this alters the perception of both individuals. Meghan Sussex as a constant focal point, William as someone who requires her star power to gain attention. This is a cultural shift with significant implications for how media, monarchy, and public perception intersect. The questions this pattern raises are difficult but necessary. Are media outlets consciously using Meghan Sussex as a marketing tool for stories about William? Are William's communications teams aware, and are they benefiting from it? Does this pattern reduce Meghan Sussex to a visual hook rather than an independent actor in her own narratives? Does it distort public understanding of William's actions and achievements by making him reliant on her visibility? These questions do not have easy answers, but they must be asked because they expose the power dynamics at play in media coverage of the royals. It is worth noting that this is not simply about one article or one publication. It reflects a systemic pattern across multiple outlets, particularly in Australia and the UK. The obsession with Meghan Sussex is persistent and pervasive. Editors and publishers know that her image guarantees clicks and engagement, and they exploit this knowledge consistently. Whether they are motivated by profit, page views, or cultural fascination, the result is the same. Meghan Sussex's visibility is weaponized, her image is borrowed for unrelated stories, and other royals' narratives, including William's, are reframed through her presence. This is why readers must remain vigilant. When an article about William features Meghan Sussex's image, it is worth asking why. Who benefits from this choice? Who is being used and who is benefiting from the use? Is William being inadvertently promoted through Meghan Sussex's visibility, or is Meghan Sussex's image simply serving as a bait to draw attention to the story? Understanding these dynamics is essential for anyone who wants to engage critically with media coverage of the royal family. Ultimately, this pattern highlights the commodification of individuals in modern media. Meghan Sussex's image has become a resource, a visual tool leveraged to sell stories, drive clicks, and generate revenue. William's narrative in this context becomes secondary, dependent on that resource for engagement. The media's obsession with visibility and engagement distorts public understanding, reshapes perceptions of identity, and blurs the lines between subject and tool. This situation calls for accountability from both the media and from those who manage the public images of royals. Editors and picture desks must recognize the implications of their choices and prioritize accuracy over engagement. Communications teams for William and other royals should consider whether they are comfortable with Meghan Sussex being used in this way, and what that means for agency and representation. Readers, too, must question what they are seeing, ask why images are chosen, and recognize the subtle manipulation that occurs when a face is used out of context. In the end, what we are witnessing is a clash between media strategy and personal agency. Meghan Sussex's image is powerful, undeniably compelling, and highly clickable. That power, however, is being harnessed not just for her own stories, but to support narratives about others, including William. The result is a distorted ecosystem in which Meghan Sussex is both central and instrumental. William is both the subject and dependent on her visibility, and the public is caught in a manipulated engagement loop. This is not simply a matter of media error, it is a reflection of cultural priorities, the commodification of individuals, and the ethics of storytelling in an attention-driven world. It is time to call this out. It is time to demand that images and narratives reflect their subjects accurately and responsibly. It is time to recognize that using Meghan Sussex's face to sell William's story is not neutral. It is a calculated act that benefits some while compromising the authenticity of both subjects. For the media, this means choosing relevance over clicks. For William's team, this means considering the implications of silent complicity. For readers, it means being critical, attentive, and aware of the ways in which images and narratives can be manipulated. A face belongs to its story, and anything else is clickbait masquerading as news.